Warren Jeffs, the prophet, father to approximately 55 children, husband to approximately 79 wives, former leader of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and a criminal. For the past 7 years, Jeffs has been serving his prison sentence of life plus 20 years in the Texas State Prison for 2 counts of sexual assault of a minor. Since the prophet's arrest, one would assume that the FLDS would fade into obscurity. However, Jeffs' hold on the church seems to be stronger than ever as he leads his people from behind bars. On this week's episode of Where Are They Now?, we take a look at how the infamous polygamous church is currently faring in 2018 and find out just what happened. We turn over to Abigail with the story.
Thanks, Patricia. Good day, everyone. I'm standing outside the infamous FLDS compound right now, and we're here to find out just what happened after Warren Jeffs got arrested. We tried talking to some of the members here, but they refused to talk to us. Our film crew tried to get a closer look inside. Hello, ma'am. Can I ask you a few questions about how your life is here? How have things changed since your prophet was arrested? We wanted to find out what caused this community of polygamous Mormons to shut themselves off from society.
In 1830, Joseph Smith formed the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a group of fundamentalist Mormons. They believed in the principle that men needed at least 3 wives to marry to get into heaven. They were chased from state to state by the government, as polygamy was, and still is, illegal. The church split off into multiple sections to avoid persecution. The FLDS, a branch of the LDS, was formed in 1950. Warren assumed control of the church after his father's passing in 2002. Jeffs began his control by dictating what people could and couldn't do. The church has been around for more than a century and has amassed more than 10,000 followers. The already restricting rules of the compound were so tight that there was no room for disobedience under Jeffs' ruling.
How could thousands upon thousands of people be manipulated by one man? By taking the image of God and twisting it, warping it for his own benefit. Imagine growing up in a cult where your family has been raised for generations. All of you look to one figurehead for guidance, afraid if you do anything against this man, God will banish you to the darkest pit of hell. Would you believe anything other than what you've been told? Warren Jeffs believed, through divine premonition, that he was to be the next prophet, the next leader of the FLDS. This divine right determined the entire religious structure of the FLDS society under Jeffs' ruling. He used the idea that he had received a message from God to cast out certain members of the priesthood, leaders of the community. His ulterior motive for this was that he saw these men as a threat to his power. To control the community, he banned all outside media, only allowing religious ceremonies. Tyrannical mind control was how he dominated his followers. The more afraid people became, the more they sought out Jeffs as their prophet. To exercise this, he told his followers that the world was going to end by the year 2000 at the hands of technology and nuclear war. The Lord would come down and wipe the world clean, saving only faithful church members, otherwise dependence through fear. The prophet's influence seeped past religious control and entered the boundaries of normal life. The luxury of free marriage was not an option for most women and girls, as marriages were arranged. Early on, girls were conditioned to expect to be married at a young age to older men, be subservient to their husbands, have lots of children, and be loving, as these were the only ways they could get into heaven. Polygamous relationships were common and expected in the FLDS compound. An example of this is the prophet himself, Warren Jeffs, who married girls as young as 12. The girls felt like they had to be married because it's what they thought God wanted. His young wives were always quiet, which made Warren sad that they had distanced themselves from him. Girls were literally forced by their parents to marry, as it was considered a great honor to marry the prophet. Bravely, a young woman has come forward to share her story with us. Tonight, we get a rare chance to talk to former cult member Alicia Smith. So, you were born into the cult, is that correct? Yes, it is. How would you compare your time in the compound to your experience now, outside living in the free world? I feel much freer now that I'm living outside. Back at the compound, women had to be conservative. Our bodies were considered sacred, so we had to cover them up with long dresses. I wasn't allowed to cut my hair as it was considered an asset I need to get into heaven. No makeup either. I was conditioned to want to have a large family. They told us that there's spirits up in heaven waiting to be born. We wanted to give them a good home.
So, what was your family like before you left?
I was married to my husband Jacob. He had 3 wives in total, Cheryl and Anna. There were 14 children between the 3 of us. I had 4 of my own. We held men up on a pedestal. I needed to love my husband to get into heaven. Jeffs often told us in sermons, realizing happiness is only by being strength of your husband. Get close to him, confide in him. Let him lead you right.
Polygamy was one of the core fundamentals of your church. How did it affect your life, and how did it affect your family?
Honestly, most of the women were on antidepressants. It kept us docile.
What was the last straw that made you leave?
One day after a ceremony, my husband came back to me and told me that the prophet had a premonition that he was to leave the compound and repent for a few days. This happened a lot. Families were broken up for no apparent reason by Jeffs. Apparently because he saw these men as a threat to his power. I haven't seen my husband in years.
Would you ever consider going back to the church?
I did at one point, but I couldn't now with my kids. Our life is here now. You know, the people back there would call us apostates, people who turn their back on the prophet. It's bad to associate with one. Some people would also call us sons of perdition, Satan's property. We would burn in hell for the rest of our lives. If this is hell, I'm glad I'm a sinner. Talking with Alicia has really opened up our eyes. All this time we've been thinking about how foolish, crazy, and old-fashioned these adults are. But what about the children? Cult kids don't know anything more than what their parents and grandparents have told them. The daughter is only good for childbearing and marriage, and the son is only good for labor. These are the core principles that are drilled into the FLDS children. Imagine being born and growing up in a society like this. No more toys or games, no pets, nothing fun. No celebrating holidays. Children studied at Alta Academy, a school founded by the church. Every aspect of a child's life is monitored, from their movements, phone, and media, all their comings and goings. Religious studies are a top priority. Their curriculum consisted of priesthood history and history of the church. They only attended grades 1 to 8. Their education was so warped that they didn't learn history, math, or science, and most of the children were illiterate. An example of this was that they were taught that Jeffs was the President of the United States of America. FLDS parents are fine with the structure, but there is very little that the government can do, as Utah state laws protects them with homeschooling laws. What the government also couldn't protect the children from was what was happening from behind closed doors. By standards that most normal societies follow, this society had institutionalized child abuse. Jeffs created a just code for girls as an excuse to bring them into his office so he could sexually abuse them. The children didn't speak up, because if they did, they would be renouncing God. Jeffs would tell the children that he abused, "This is the word of God. This is God's will. If you say anything to anyone, you will go to hell."
We here at DM15 News wondered how on earth a community like this could sustain itself. So we reached out to Sheriff Hank Anderson, a police officer who aided in the arrest of Warren Jeffs. How did the church keep its doors open and its members fed? Through cunning, evading laws, and control. That's how. Can you tell me how this place kept the cash flowing? The only way to become more prominent in this church is to contribute money. The church would essentially swindle people's paychecks, telling their members to donate their time. If they worked 500 hours, they would only be paid for 250 of those hours. The church would take the rest of the money. Surely that must be illegal. The FLDS also owned companies and controlled the finances of the people. Businesses, family homes, you name it. It's all owned by the church. Jeff used the pretense of God to get these people to give their possessions to him. He built a brand new church headquarters in 2004. Just how much money did this man have? With the assets he gathered over time, he had accumulated a massive $110 million worth of property, company, and assets. How did he control his followers? He would give them deadlines to accomplish a task, for if they didn't, the Lord would smite them. They have cameras all over the place, and church security monitors the compound. Anyone who steps outside and questions things will be targeted. Please tell me it was only the adults who were forced to work. Children had to work as well, sometimes 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The children worked instead of going to school. Do you know how these people have the drive to keep on going? The way Jeffs put it, you work until you get tired. Then you ask the Lord for more strength to keep you going. Well, Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for talking to me today. Pleasure talking to you.
Even though Jeffs is far away, he can still exercise control over his people, dominating every aspect of their everyday lives, and his control still continues to this day. Thank you, everyone. This has been DM15 News signing off. Warren Jeffs.
Warren Jeffs.
Warren Jeffs.
Warren Jeffs.
Warren Jeffs. Jeffs is
Warren Jeffs.
Warren Jeffs. Jeffs rule. Warren Jeffs. Jeffs are Jeffs. The Jeffs was the Jeffs would Warren Jeffs.
Jeff, you Jeffs.
No, Jeffs is you.